Canada is like a stone's throw that way. We're gonna be flying in a custom-built, a home-built Supercub on this episode of Taking Off. Hey everyone, Dan Milliken here, Taking Off. I'm at Sandpoint, Idaho, like just by Canada. And it's the home of Kodiak, but it's also the home of Cascadia Cubs. And they are custom home builders of Super Cubs. Brant Phillips from Colton Mortgage, he's here working on his Super Cub, and we're checking it out. And I get to go ride in the owner, Devin's very own Super Cub. Let's go check it out. Ready? Let's do it.
Devin, how did you get into custom building Cubs, Super Cubs?
Always was hands-on around the house, loved working on things. And I was working at an FBO as a teenager. And a gentleman offered me a job as an apprentice working on the restoration of a Catalina PBY 5A. One of those old giant flying boats.
Yep.
So I spent a couple years interning there, getting really comfortable with sheet metal. I was always kind of intrigued by bush flying.
56 Juliet, taxiing from Granite Aviation to run up, runway.
Yeah, and
Sandpoint.
there were a couple guys at the Aurora Airport there designing Cubs and building them, and I began working with them. And then shortly thereafter, opened up my own shop.
Okay, so I've been a certified airplane guy. I've had a Cessna 210.
Yep.
And I trained in a 172.
Okay.
My world is not this world. I don't know experimental aircraft. I don't know, STOL aircraft, fat tire aircraft and all that.
Yep.
So take me through the progression quickly before we get to the Sandbar. You got, your Cubs, then you've got Super Cubs, and then you've got Carbon Cubs, then you've got, all sorts of Cubs.
Right. Well, it first started late 30s with the J3, with a 65 horse.
And I have flown in a J3.
Yeah, great flying planes, really well balanced, and actually decent performers. And then Piper designed the PA-18 150. In between there were a couple other variants, some short wings, some PA-18s with smaller engines and no flaps. But the one that they ultimately settled on and produced for a while was the PA-18 150. The Lycoming 0320, flaps, and round tip wing, 62-inch flap. Great performing plane and kind of the tried and true model. A lot of those flying. I think roughly 10,000 of them were built by Piper.
Wow.
Yeah, and a lot of them are still flying. Maybe they've been rebuilt here and there, but a lot of them still flying. And, a lot of people think that modifying Cubs is new, but, they started doing it a long time ago. There's pictures out there with Super Cubs with Mickey Thompson racing slicks on them before bush wheels were around. Bush wheels kind of revolutionized the tire market because they're so soft and they're so good for off airport. But people have been putting big tires on Super Cubs for a long time. And a lot of history of running them on floats and skis up in Alaska. And then, what was it, mid-2000s or so, early 2000s, Cub Crafters came out with a Sport Cub, which is a little bit lighter version of a Super Cub, but the same geometry is still there. They basically have a Super Cub wing, a Super Cub flap, tail. A lot of that stuff is really, really similar. And then they had the same progression Piper did. You know, they started off with a smaller horsepower, lighter version, and then they realized that the market was kind of leaning towards a little higher horsepower type of aircraft. So, you know, they started building the different variants, and now they're all the way up to X-Cubs. Wow. And then there's a lot of experimental Super Cub kits and parts that are now available. You know, 10 years ago, it was a lot harder to get a fuselage than it is now. That's opened up a lot of the experimental Super Cub market. It's just the access to parts. There's a number of manufacturers that sell fuselages, you know, like Javron, Alaska Airframes, Dakota.
Inbound.
A lot of those companies produce wings. You know, lots of different mods.
So, but they're all called Cubs. Did Piper not trademark the name Cub?
Ooh, I don't know. You're going to have to ask an attorney that question.
I'm just, because everybody's using it, so it's like, wow, okay.
Yeah. I do not know the answer to that one.
Well, tell me about this one.
So this one, we started out with a bare fuselage, welded a lot of modifications to it. We put a really big wing on it and a big double side flap, but you know, still within that balanced area. It's not so big that we're diminishing our aileron size and reducing roll authority. And then we increased the angle of incidence on it. You know, a lot of airplanes have 0 degrees incidence. Super Cub's at 1.8 degrees. This is at 3. And that really allows, you know, that the wing will still stall at the critical angle of attack, but what we're doing is we're lowering the deck angle of the fuselage relative to the wing. So while the wing's at a high angle of attack, we're still pretty level inside the plane, and it greatly increases your visibility. The double-sided flaps do that same thing. So one thing you'll notice with this plane is when we touch down, we'll still be relatively flat for how slow we're going.
Okay, so you got better visibility when you're taxiing and taking off and landing.
Yep, exactly. Most evident on the landing for sure. And then it's a wide body. We have a pumped up 320 that's doing about 175 horsepower or so. And then really light front end, you know, just an 8 amp alternator, no starter, no big battery, no flywheel. So you can save 20 to 30 pounds off the front end by going no starter.
And that's really the game here.
Yes.
Weight,
and it also shifts the CG aft. A plane like this will fly slower with aft CG.
Okay. But then you have to be careful that you don't put too much back there.
Exactly, yep. So when I was kind of building this one up, I kept an eye on where the CG was going to be, and then I did several load configurations to make sure it would still work well for camping. And it still does, and it's still a lot of fun to fly light and empty. Yeah, that's one of the main things with Cub building that I think some people don't focus on is you have to build the plane to kind of fit the mission. And it might not be every modification in the world, or it might be.
Whereas some people might just go, I want every modification because it's the cool thing or something.
Exactly, yep.
Right. Yeah, see, I feel so slow. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're about to stall, but we're not, are we?
No, we're probably about 20 miles an hour from stall speed.
Wow. I feel like we're walking.
Yeah. We're at 1 notch, fully configured for landing. Fully configured aside from pulling more flaps.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to fly right into those trees.
Yep. Little different than the 210.
Yes.
We're going to land on this sandbar here. A little bit of a cut bank on the side of it, so we definitely don't want to touch down short on this one. Looks like wind's dead calm. No ripples in the water at all.
Ducks.
Yep, we gotta watch out for them.
Wow. Wow. Nicely done.
Thanks. Like you said, though, it's like the plane was just walking. We're going so slow, so it makes it easy.
Yeah.
I wish I could tell everybody I was an amazing pilot. It's mostly the plane. You can see our touchdown spot there, just off the cut bank.
Do you do any of the STOL competitions or anything?
I don't. Not that I'm not a fan of it. It's just, if I'm going to be in my Cub, taking off and landing short, it's going to be out to do something fun and away from people. Not that I'm antisocial, it's just I really like getting outdoors. That's why I built this thing. So when I have time off, I'm going to the backcountry.
Right. Yeah, I know when I put cameras up in this plane, you have all this time and flight hours in this plane, and like the first time you've had cameras in here.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You're one of those, don't tell people about it, just do it.
Yeah, usually I like going out and having fun with my buddies. Don't get me wrong, it's definitely cool. I'll be looking forward to seeing the videos.
I can definitely see the appeal.
Yeah. Great way to escape. The backcountry Idaho strips are about an hour and a half from here. Like we were talking about earlier, it's an hour and a half flight into the middle of the wilderness versus a 6-hour drive and day-and-a-half long horse ride. So.
All right, so let's say that, I'm just blown away by this. Don't tell Lola, my 210. But if I wanted to get my own Supercub, approximately how much money and how long would it take to get one from you?
Oh, it really depends on options. You can buy some pretty expensive components, brand new engines, brand new props, full glass panel. And then with the build assist, the labor that goes along with that, we're usually coming in anywhere between $250,000, $300,000. So it's kind of expensive compared to a Supercub that was rebuilt 20 years ago. But a really good deal compared to a brand new Carbon Cub or Husky.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we like to compare it more to, because it's a brand new plane with everything brand new and completely tailored to the person who's helping build it, the customer, and just their dream plane painted exactly how they want at half the price of a brand new Husky, almost half the price.
So like people like Brant, they come up here, they stay in this beautiful area, they work on the plane, help labor assist. So then approximately how long, I know it depends on them and their schedule, but are we talking, if I wanted to come up and help and build my own plane, we talking 6 months, a year, 18 months?
I would say somewhere between the 6 months and a year. Kind of that standard Supercub with just the Alaska mods, that's more or less a little bit on the plainer side, is right around 6 months. And then one that has a lot more custom modifications that requires more labor is going to be closer to that 12-month time frame.
Right. Okay.
Here you can really see how big that lake is.
On hold short, taxiing.
Yeah. What'd you say? The fourth or fifth deepest lake in the
It's country? Something like that.
And it's a natural lake.
Yep, it is.
What's the name of the lake?
Lake Ponderay.
Ponderay.
Yep.
So it's so deep, you were telling me something about the U.S. Navy.
Yeah, they have a facility down at the south end where they test submarines. I believe the middle of the lake over there is a little over 1,400 feet deep.
Wow.
Yeah. Some great fishing.
What kind of fish?
A lot of different varieties. Several different species of trout, walleye. There's some salmon that make it all the way up here. Most people are going after lake trout, though, it seems.
Yeah. Rainbow?
Yep, absolutely. Some really, really, really big rainbows. Steelhead-sized rainbows.
Wow.
You can start to see the beach along the Monarchs here. A lot of camping spots. along there.
Now, as we're sitting here in May, you'll start to get runoff, I guess. Will the water level come up?
Yeah, it's fed by the Clark Fork primarily, and that's dam controlled 10 to 15 miles upstream.
Oh, okay.
So they'll bring it up to a certain level and then leave it there all summer.
I see.
Yeah, they know that tourism's a main component of North Idaho and Sandpoint, so they make sure the lake is in perfect condition.
And as far as the rules, I mean, us landing on these sandbars and stuff, it's all okay to do that?
Yeah, below high water mark is technically public property.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I think the caveat for that is it has to be a navigable piece of water. So if it's a tiny little creek that's going through your backyard, then technically, below high water mark might not be public property, but on a lot of times on navigable streams, below high water is public.
Is that a federal FAA rule, or is that a state-by-state rule?
I believe that's statewide, but most states are the same.
Okay.
Yep. Doing a little flyover, making sure that there's no logs or geese in the way. I'm going to close this. With the flaps down, it kind of gives it just a little bit of a buffet inside the cabin here. Kind of like the...
So we can't land on the grass over here because that's whoever's property.
Right,
but
we can
the
land.
sandbar is public property.
Fair game.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow. Boy, I still feel like we're going to fall from the sky, but I know 20 knots above.
Yep. Now we're indicating about 60 miles an hour right now.
How cold is this water? Pretty cold?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you think it's flying slow right now, when it's nice and cool and we're not full of fuel and 2 people,
you can walk it up on there, huh?
Yeah, it does pretty good.
Big fat squishy tires on this.
Yep. Yeah, pretty short one with how warm it is and how we're loaded.
Yep.
Got this one right towards the shallow water here. Don't tell Brent I told you this, but you're lighter than he is.
Well, he's only got like 2 feet on me.
So it sounds like you've had some gravel bar flying experience before?
No, not at all.
Oh, really?
Oh, this is the first gravel bar I've ever landed on.
Oh, perfect.
As a passenger. So what are we setting up for now?
The one just behind it. A little bit shorter. Still doable even on a nice warm day.
Wow.
Kind of fun, right?
That's very fun. I can see now why you guys do this.
Yeah. The best part is to do this with your coffee thermos on a nice morning. Get out and do a little fishing, have some coffee.
Oh, yeah. You can fish here where, unless you got a boat, you can't really get to. And
yeah.
Sandpoint traffic, 06 miles to the northeast, 5,000 maneuver.
I'm glad I got to give you your first ride to gravel bars.
Yeah, that was a blast.
That's fun.
Yeah, I just have not.
Find yourself up here, especially if you come up with Brant anymore.
I'll have to. I'll have to put in some labor on his plane, help him.
Yeah, and then come help him break it in.
Yeah. So how long have you had this Super Cub?
Since 2016.
So 8 years.
Yeah, coming up on it.
How many? Roughly how many hours have you have on it?
About 800.
What's your scariest moment in it?
Ooh, probably either flat light up in Alaska ski flying, having the weather come in really fast and having to take off, and then realizing that the light was really flat and it being hard to tell. So
flat light is the same thing as what, IMC?
It can feel that way. It's when there's not enough sunlight to cast shadows, and when you're in snowy conditions, it can be hard to tell where the ground is, where a mountain is. Everything just looks white, so it looks like a complete whiteout.
So what did you do?
Followed, I knew the terrain well enough that I just kind of relied on where I thought lowering terrain was, and then look for visual clues like rocks. You can also, I mean, it's not very reliable to use a GPS. They don't have that good a detail up there for that kind of situation, but just visual clues, small visual clues here and there. Most of the scary moments are usually weather induced.
Ah. So I notice you don't really advertise.
Correct.
Why is that?
We're a pretty small shop. We like to build highly custom planes, and they take a while, and it's hard to train employees that can help with the build assist to keep the level of quality really high. I think quality's one thing that we do really well, and I would like to keep it that way, so that, you know, the trade-off for that is not building that many Cubs a year. So, you know, we don't advertise that much. It's kind of just a word-of-mouth thing, and keeps us busy enough where we're a few years out.
Right, so I can't put, hey guys out there watching, I can't put a website because he didn't have one. So there's not really any way to really get a hold of him. So, you know, he has perfected the sales technique of the takeaway clothes. Like, you know, you can't get one from me, which then makes you really want one from me.
Yeah, I think the only way to really get a hold of us is through Instagram, Cascadia_Cubs.
All right. Or you can come out to Lake Ponderay and stalk him.
Yeah.
Look for the orange Supercub hitting all the sandbars, gravel bars out here.
Yep.
I feel like we're going to be totally in the trees.
A little squirrelier back here.
All right, great job, Devin.
Thanks.
All right, you guys, thanks for watching. What super fun and a Super Cub, and you know, videos like this are made possible by people like Brant at Colton Mortgage. You know, he's a pilot and he's offering residential mortgage, so check out Colton Taking Off. Also, Jerry Clemens at ClemensInsurance.net. Jerry has saved me personally a lot of money on my insurance, not only on Lola, but on my CFI insurance, and also 67 Designs. I'm talking to a camera that's on a 67 Design mount. They're the best mounts I've ever used, but for cameras, for phones, for tablets, they're awesome. We've got other sponsors. Please check them out in the description below. They're all run by aviators, and we keep it in the family. So you guys, thanks for watching. Remember, superior judgment trumps superior skills. We'll see you next time.